You are listening to the Home Studio Simplified Podcast, episode number 42. In today's episode, we'll talk about which microphone is best for your home studio. Hey guys, it's Robert McClellan here again. I know it's been a while, but we are back in action, and today we're going to be talking about, as you've already heard from the cheesy intro there, which microphone is best for the home studio. Now, I would like to preface all of this by saying that this is probably not going to be the answer that you want to hear, but probably the answer that you need to hear. And what I mean by this is, well, let me just start all the way from the beginning. So, one of the most prevalent questions that seem to be asked in most of the forums or the Facebook pages or anything of this nature is, which microphone do I need, or what is the best microphone to get insert artist's sound here? What microphone do I need for a insert genre here, music genre here? And really, it's kind of a slighted question, honestly. To be perfectly honest, I feel like we're kind of lying to ourselves when we ask those kind of questions, because if you look back over the course of history, you look at situations like such as Michael Jackson, for instance. He sung most of the songs on the song Thriller. Most of the songs that he sang was actually through an SM57 or an SM57B. They were not microphones that would predominantly have been used by the big name studios at that time, but he used those microphones because they worked. There's also several different instances in the Beatles albums, and just all throughout history, you can look at any of the great recordings and you can find that somewhere down throughout the course of history, someone has used a microphone for a certain situation that was not the go-to microphone of the day. And what I'm getting at is, when we ask questions like, what's the best microphone for me to get for a rap genre? What's the best microphone for folk songs? What's the best microphone for this and for that? One can give their opinions, but one's opinions is just that. One person may, their go-to might be an SM57 for a vocal. It might be an SM58. It might be an SM57 for acoustic guitar. But another individual might say, no, I would definitely reach for a Neumann TLM, for vocals, or I would definitely reach for a Neumann U87 for vocals. And what you have there then is this divide. And we have one camp of people who say, no, you can use whatever, you can use the cheapest. And I'm not completely agreeing with that. And you can use another camp that says, well, actually, no, you need to use the best of the best of the best. And I definitely don't agree with that either. I think probably the best answer to the question of which is the best microphone for your home studio is, for one, which microphone do you have now that's working? For two, which microphone do you have that you've tested out the most? I think would probably be another way to look at this, because, certain microphones are going to do better in certain situations than other microphones. Like, for instance, I know when it comes to an acoustic guitar, a small diaphragm condenser 12 inches away from the 12th fret usually is a good starting point. However, I've completely broken those rules, thrown them out the window at times, even though those were my sort of hard and fast rules that I use, so to speak. And I've used those in the sense of saying, okay, I've got an individual in the studio today who, for whatever reason, it's just not working. So then what you have to do is you have to improvise. And the best way to improvise is to try things out. And that's what I'm really getting at when I say that the question is kind of slighted, because you see, if you haven't tried something out, you can't just readily take someone's advice on that. Likewise, if you have not ever tried an SM57 on a vocal, but everyone on the websites and everyone on the forums are telling you you can't do it, you don't just readily accept that as fact. Because the truth is, and I found this out time and time again, the truth is, yes, there are a lot of opinions out there. There are a lot of good individuals with great advice. Don't get me wrong, but there's also a lot of individuals who have never even tried it themselves, but are telling you not to do it. So really, you have to use your ears first and foremost, and you have to use the knowledge that you've acquired through doing something over and over and over, which is probably the best way to obtain any of this, especially when it comes to audio. Now, I know this was not the answer that you were looking for when you search on the internet and you're looking for what's the best microphone for this and for that. Done it myself, still do it from time to time, honestly, in the sense of trying to find, because to me, my main thing was which was the best microphone, and I searched this for I don't know how long, which is the best microphone for acoustic guitar. Now, there's a lot of varying opinions out there. I like to go with sound examples, YouTube videos, and things of that nature. Those help a lot. But ultimately, what I ended up doing is I ended up actually grabbing the microphones that I have, and I went back to the source, and I moved that microphone in this one particular instance when I was recording Justin Clark, which that's on the YouTube channel if you want to check that out, how to record acoustic guitar. I literally moved the microphone 2 inches, and it sounded worlds better. Likewise, I tried another tactic where I used a small diaphragm 12 inches away from the 12th fret as a starting point, and then I actually used a larger diaphragm, the MXL V67G, over his shoulder and pointing down as if it was sort of like telescopically looking over his shoulder. And that blended together sounded absolutely amazing. Nobody ever told me to do that, and I had never seen anyone do it up until that point. Oddly enough, after I do that, I'm like, oh man, I've got this great, new thing. You find out there's no new thing under the sun. Someone's already done it. But the point is, experiment and try with what you already have. Now, if you have a Radio Shack microphone, I do have to say this, if you have a Radio Shack, if they're even still around your area, they've all closed down around here, unfortunately. I loved some of their parts and stuff that they had that you can't get anywhere else. But that being said, if you have a Radio Shack microphone and you have nothing else to work with, you're probably not going to be able to get the greatest recordings just simply because of the source material that you're working with or the source of that audio. And just like with anything else, you have to really start at the very beginning to get a good ending. With anything else in life, even, you always have to have, everything working on the foreground before you can get things to fall into place on the background. It's the same thing with the audio world. You got to get it right at the source. And I'm not the only one that's saying this. I'm not the only one that's ever thought this. This is all over the internet. You're going to hear individuals who are a lot more talented than myself, who've been doing this for more years, and they will tell you as well, get it right at the source before you ever do anything. Make sure you move that microphone around 15, 20, 35 times until you get that sound that you want. Now, there's a lot to be said with that as well. I mean, you don't want to spend all day long tweaking and just continually mulling over the minutia of trying to get this one sound, this particular sound. If you have the time to do that, that's one thing. I'm not saying rush the process either, but what I am saying is you also have to come to a point of diminishing returns when you realize that the gear that you have at this particular time is not giving you the sound that you want. Then you have to just kind of get what you can while you can get it. Maybe use that as a scratch track, borrow a microphone, rent a microphone, if that's really what you want to do. And I would actually suggest, if you can, if you're around the area where you have a library, there's some libraries around our local area that actually offer some private rooms for recording, and they have some decent gear in there. And I actually utilized that to go and try out a microphone that I'd never used before on an acoustic guitar, and realized that I could get just about the same amount of sound on a microphone that was $200 and $300 cheaper than this microphone. Now, I've said all of this in order to bring this to the conclusion of, when you ask the question, which microphone is best for your home studio, it's the microphone that you have right now that you're able to use. And you just need to learn that microphone, the ins and the outs of that microphone. As you progress and you get better in your knowledge, as you progress and you realize what that microphone's strengths and its weaknesses are, then you can possibly go out and get another microphone that will help to accommodate your mic locker, in the sense of saying, okay, now I can get another microphone. It does not always have to be a $4,000 microphone, but I can get another one that has a different EQ curve and a different collar. And the whole point of this is when these microphones have these different EQ curves, it's not just to say, well, I have a mic that's really good on vocals, or I have a mic that's really good. It's so that whenever you record with that microphone and you know that EQ curve, you automatically will know what to reach for, so that on the back end, you don't have to do as much mixing, because the difference between a really great mix and a mix that sounds like it's been mixed is just that. If you can listen to a mix and be like, man, this thing sounds overmixed, and I've heard it before, I've done it myself, sat there and tweaked on a song for 8 hours at a time, and I go back to the very first time where I saved it, and I listened to the very first mix that I did when I thought it sounded like junk, and it sounds light years better than what I've just spent 8 hours on. And that's because there comes a point in time where, I hate to say this, but you can't polish a turd. You can only do so much with, yet again, the source material that you have. So, in reference to what is the best microphone for your home studio, I do have definitely some recommendations. I'm not just going to leave you hanging there, but I don't want to give you down the road about if you don't buy the best of the best, because I realize and I understand, especially myself being a father and having a family, and this is just, the home studio and everything in here, this is more or less a hobby for me. So it's not something I'm making a ton of money off of. Yes, I'm making some money off of it with a few clients here and there, and the website, the YouTube channel, very minimal amount of money being made. But at the same time, you have to use what you can afford, and you don't have to go out and buy the top of the line everything to get the sound that you think that's not that's not the end game, is not go buy a bunch of gear and all of a sudden you're going to sound great. We talked about this in a recent podcast with John Heyman, where he said, he's recording people all day long in a studio in Chesterton, and they were asking, how do you get so-and-so sound? I've got his strings, I've got his guitar, I've got his amp, I'm playing through his cab, I'm doing this, I'm using his picks, but I don't sound like him. And, we kind of chuckle at ourselves as mix engineers, because you have to tell that person, well, you're not that person. You're not going to sound like that person just because you have their gear. You have to take a look at what they've done on the front end. Yet again, they've got years of experience. Everyone's fingers sound different. The way that they press the strings is going to sound different. The way that they bend those strings, how much grit they put into those strings. So by and large, just use precautionary measures whenever you go out and you're trying to record, or and don't be discouraged because you don't have the greatest of gear. So let's go ahead now to the website. As you can see here, there's a tab that's called Studio Gear. If you click on this tab, it's going to take you to a page within my website that, full disclosure, is full of affiliate links to things that I've already used, I believe in, I trust, and I know to be good gear at very affordable prices. Because these are affiliate links, anything that you would buy on this page would be at no additional cost to you. I would just receive a small kickback from Amazon for leading you to their business to buy from them. So you're going to get it for the exact same price you would get anywhere else. It's not going to cost you any more. I'm just simply going to get a little perk out of it. And believe me, it's a very minimal perk. I actually led someone here to buy the Boss BR800 on one of my previous podcasts. And he said, I really like the podcast. I like the demo, the gear review that you did on YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and buy it. I want to use your affiliate link to help you. And I was like, great. It was my first affiliate buy. And this was a $460 unit, and I got a whopping $14. So nothing big, nothing major, but every little bit does help. So if you could go there and you see anything that you like I said, these are things that I've tried. I've known these brands. I've used these things. It's not just stuff that I'm just throwing out there. And it's not the most expensive thing on Amazon either. I've tried to find things that people who own home studios can actually afford. So go ahead and head on over to the Home Studio Simplified website, check out the tab Studio Gear, and right there will be a bunch of recommendations for you to start out or to upgrade if you would like to as well on the cheap, things that I believe would be great start out for you. But do not think that just because you get that next microphone or that next cable for your guitar or that next piece of gear that you're going to automatically, take your game from here to here. What really gets your game from point A to point B in a matter of no time is just putting in the work and putting in the time and letting your ears become adjusted to the things that you're doing. So guys, I hope this episode has been helpful for you. And if it has been, please leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click on that bell icon so that you'll be notified every time I upload a video. I intend to do more videos like this. If there's any kind of videos like this that you would like for me to cover, go ahead and leave that in the comment section below too. And hey, if you didn't like it, you know what? Go ahead and do whatever you got to do. Leave some hate down there if that's what, floats your boat. If that's what makes your world turn, your cookie crumble, your ball bounce, you go ahead and leave some hate mail down there for me so I can read that and get semi-suicidal, okay? Okay? You go ahead and do that. Anyway, guys, I am not going to get semi-suicidal, I promise you. I've got a lot of hate mail, by the way. It's okay. Anytime you're putting this stuff out there in this space, you're going to get people who are like, dude, you've got to use a Neumann U87 on everything because it costs a lot of money. And then you ask them, have you ever used it? No. Anyway, guys, you have a blessed day. I will talk to you all later, and I'll see you on the next video. I hope this has been helpful. Once again, bye-bye. See you later.